Well, here it is. When I was younger, I did not like reading. I never wanted to do it on my own, so my parents had to force me to read, and as such, I came to see reading as more of a chore. This frustration went on for a few years until my sister handed me a book that started with a chapter titled I Accidentally Vaporized My Pre-Algebra Teacher, and to my surprise, I actually had a lot of fun reading it. I would later go on to read the rest of the series, it being something I could count on to keep me entertained whenever my mom would tell me to read. And it led to me going on to read a lot of other series in the following years and in my adulthood. More recently, I learned that the story of the original series had continued, leading to a connected universe of 5 series and several companion books. A connected universe that I slowly made my way through before returning to the original series after about 10 years since I first read it, so I can review and rank every book in each of the 5 main series. So yeah, this is that. I hope that's what you're here for. If you haven't read the book yet, this review is going to be spoiler light, but I can't make any promises. The Lightning Thief, the first book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, starts us off with an introduction to our main character, Percy Jackson. And to be blunt, his life sucks. He's been kicked out of every school he's ever attended due to various reasons ranging from his ADHD and dyslexia causing him trouble with paying attention in class to having a reputation as a troublemaker for things like accidentally blowing up a school bus with a cannon. His home life isn't much better. His mom is great, but he doesn't know who his father is due to him having left a long time ago. His stepfather, on the other hand, is present in his life, and he is horribly abusive and tends to extort money from Percy and his mom so he can waste it away in gambling. Not a good look, but I really like this setup. It manages to be full of humor thanks to Rick's sassy writing style while also evoking sympathy for the protagonist. Even if you don't deal with ADHD or dyslexia and you've never been treated horribly despite doing nothing wrong, you still feel bad for this poor kid because of all the crap he's had to put up with. And you want to see things get better for him. Thankfully, things do start to change for him, just not in the way he expected. One day, on a particularly uneventful field trip, Percy's pre-algebra teacher pulls him aside and proceeds to turn into a fury and try to kill him. Percy then accidentally kills her with a sword given to him by his Latin teacher. However, when the moment passes, everything fantastical about the situation seemingly vanishes, and people start telling him that his math teacher never existed, something even his best friend joins in on. Oh, and he gets expelled again. But now, Percy starts getting suspicious. He continues to notice more strange, fantastical things happening around him until the day when his mom and his best friend rush him away to a special summer camp where Percy is told he'll finally get some answers. On the way, however, they're attacked by Minotaur, which seemingly kills Percy's mom, which infuriates Percy, so instead of running, he manages to kill the beast by ripping off its horn and stabbing it before passing out. The next day, Percy wakes up at camp and he finally learns who he is and why, well, everything. Percy is a demigod. His mother is a human, but his father is a Greek god. He just doesn't know which one. The Greek gods exist in this world, hidden from most mortal eyes, but sometimes they fall in love and have kids. Said kids often end up with very difficult and short lives. They tend to develop some form of ADHD and or dyslexia due to their brains not being fully human. By the way, the author originally made this story for his son who was struggling in school due to having both ADHD and dyslexia, but also had a love of Greek mythology, so the author wrote the story in order to help him stay engaged with learning and reading. Also, monsters exist in this world, hidden by the mist, a magical illusion that prevents ordinary people and demigods who are unaware of the truth from seeing them. Monsters can sense demigods the more aware they become of said magical world, hence why they tend to die early in life. If they do learn the truth, the only place that is safe for them is Camp Half-Blood, the very summer camp Percy has been brought to. Also, his best friend Grover is a satyr whose job it is to bring demigods to camp. While he's there, Percy starts to train as a hero so he can learn to survive better in the world now that he knows what he is, and he gets to know some of the other campers. Annabeth Chase, the daughter of Athena, who had an even more difficult child than Percy and lives at camp year-round, hoping one day for the opportunity to prove herself. Luke Castellan, the son of Hermes, who is a bit older and takes Percy under his wing, teaching him sword fighting, and Clarice LaRue, the daughter of Ares, who tries to shove Percy's face in a toilet on his first day at camp. Unfortunately, though, the fun doesn't last very long. A while after Percy gets acquainted with the rest of the camp and manages to help win a game of Capture the Flag, albeit unwittingly, he is claimed by Poseidon, god of the seas. Normally getting claimed would be awesome, but in this case, it kind of made Percy's life suck again. You see, Zeus's master lightning bolt has been stolen, and due to the fact that the gods can't take each other's symbols of power but their children can, Zeus suspects Percy, the son of Poseidon, who is his greatest rival. Now, the gods of Olympus are gearing up for a grand war that would destroy the entire world, and Percy is being blamed for it. But there is one way out. If Percy can go on a quest to retrieve the bolt and return it to Zeus, he can prevent the war and possibly bring his mom back, who isn't entirely dead. And he doesn't have to go alone. The aforementioned Grover and Annabeth agree to go with him. Grover wants a chance to make up for his past failures, and Annabeth wants a chance to prove herself and to make sure that Percy doesn't die. So this is where we're going to get into the bulk of the adventure, and parts of the book did hold up surprisingly well, even rereading it as an adult. But there were also other parts that didn't hold up quite as well. Let's start with the pros first. I love the characters and their arcs. In the 10-ish years it has been since the first time I read the book, I forgot how well Percy was established and developed as a character. He's clearly just a kid in this book. He only thinks of himself at first and is very angry at his father due to the situation that he's been put in, but can you really blame him? He feels like he's been the punching bag of the education system his whole life, and he's been abused by his stepdad, and when things start getting better for him, he gets kicked out of the only safe place for him in the entire world and is being blamed for starting a war he had nothing to do with. But that doesn't stop him from bettering himself. Maybe because he's been put down so much in life, he's able to empathize with Annabeth and Grover because of what they've suffered through, and this leads to him starting to act selflessly, and that leads to him maturing and starting to become a true hero. Now, Percy is our protagonist, but Grover and Annabeth are both very well defined with their own lives outside of their relationship with him. Grover has been tasked with bringing demigods to camp before Percy, a task he failed at one notable time and now lives with survivor's guilt as a result. In addition, he has a life's goal of saving the natural world before it is destroyed by humanity's pollution and deforestation, namely by finding Pan, the god of the wild, a quest that many satyrs have already lost their lives at. Annabeth starts out hating Percy, definitely an extension of the rivalry between their godly parents, but she warms up to him after getting to witness his caring and heroic nature, even choosing to open up about her past, which involved her family being attacked by monsters due to her demigod status. Her stepmother blamed her for it, and as tensions escalated between her family, she eventually felt her father had chosen his current wife over her, so she chose to run away at a very young age, venturing across the country with 2 other demigods in a similar situation, until the day she was brought to camp, and has been there ever since, training for years for a chance to show what she's capable of. Character development is not even the only thing I have to praise about the series. I also really love how the world is established. From how the mist works to hide the magical world, to how demigods have to live, to how the gods act in the modern world when they do show up. The world feels dangerous, but also survivable if you're prepared. I also like how the constant monster attacks gave off a sense of fear, like the kids could never afford to let their guard down even for a moment, lest a passing monster take advantage of an opening, possibly with a human-like disguise. Now, all that being said, one thing that was brought to my attention about this series by YouTuber Murphy Napier is that this series is formulaic in regards to its monster encounters. The story does kind of become a series of roadblocks that randomly show up, getting in the way of the quest, and I would be lying if I said I didn't understand what she meant. It wasn't a huge issue for me, but it did kind of take me out of the moment whenever it came up during the quest. To be fair, some of the monster encounters were used for good character moments and felt like they organically fit into the story. But others came across like random sidetracking that didn't serve much of a purpose other than filling space. Spoilers for future videos in this series, but it didn't really seem to be a problem, for me at least, in the rest of the Riordanverse. I mean, it was kind of in Heroes of Olympus and Kane Chronicles, but by then, I think Rick had gotten much better at making each fight fit naturally as a part of the story, and by Magnus Chase and Trials of Apollo, it's basically a non-issue. Now we have come to my favorite part of the whole book, the conclusion. Rick Riordan is a master of subverting your expectations in a way that surprises you, but also makes sense based on everything you know up until that point. Each reveal that happens during the climax hits hard, and it makes the end of the book a roller coaster of emotions. And because of how harrowing the main characters' lives have been, it makes all their triumphs at the end of the book all the more rewarding. It's one of the things that really helped elevate the experience for me during this reread. Now, while the story told in this book is largely self-contained as the plot mostly wraps up all the hanging threads, it does also contain one final loose end that sets up the rest of the series really, really well. That's as much as I can say without going into major spoilers, so final thoughts. This was a great reread. I'd say it's even better than I remember. As a kid, I enjoyed it because I found it fun and I liked the Greek mythology, but as an adult, I can appreciate just how much the whole story feels like a Greek myth, how the characters all came to life, and how much Percy feels like a kid in way over his head, but also a believable hero. Now, having read all the other series, I don't think Rick reached his stride until later. That said, this first book is still a solid entry. For the ranking, this book is A tier. A very good start, but similar to my feelings on The Eye of the World and Wheel of Time, it doesn't reach the highest of highs that later books are able to for me. So, what are your thoughts on the book? Whatever they are, feel free to share them in the comments, and until next time, the Mythos archives are always open.